Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, How to Use Lead Scoring, Behavioral Data, and Incentives to Sell More Cars Faster. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by Dealeron. And for anyone who hasn't heard about Dealeron, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, best known for our search engine optimization, best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. Dealeron was named the top-rated website provider by Driving Sales in 2011, and Dealeron customers were winners of the Spring 2012 Digital Dealer Website Excellence Awards based on website conversion and optimization. Dealeron is so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that we are the only company in the industry to offer a lead guarantee program. That's right. Now, if your website company isn't giving you a lead guarantee program, then you might want to find out more about ours. So check us out at Dealeron.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. And I'm very, very pleased to have Jeff Kershner as our presenter today. Jeff Kershner is a name that most people in the automotive industry know for his ability to help car dealerships navigate the complex waters of internet marketing so they can dominate their online sales arena. Jeff started in the car business at the tender age of 18, and in 2004, Jeff founded Dealer Refresh, an automotive website mainstay devoted to helping automotive sales professionals stay at the forefront of dealer industry news and trends. Jeff Kershner is also the Vice President of Sales for Hook Logic, a company that powers e-commerce media by creating unprecedented opportunities to influence in-market shoppers at key decision points. Jeff is passionate about helping dealers understand how to leverage the internet to sell cars and improve customer service, and he often speaks to audiences about internet marketing, online reputation management, digital advertising, and remarketing for the automotive industry. Jeff is an avid blogger and can be reached on LinkedIn and at Jeff Kershner at dealerrefresh.com or jeff.kershner at hooklogic.com. And we also posted up there a Twitter handle for you, so don't bother. Just go out there and get in touch with Jeff. He loves talking to you. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to respond by email later today. Also, don't forget a link to download a copy of today's webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. Now, let's get started. Let's learn how to use lead scoring, behavioral data, and incentives to sell more cars faster. Jeff Kershner, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing great today. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, we had the July 4th holiday yesterday in the middle of the week. I honestly don't think it could have been at a worse day of the week. But here we are back at work, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. So I hope you enjoyed your holiday.
I know. I feel like it's a Monday, so you'll have to excuse me if I
I thought it was Sunday too. I was wondering how come we didn't see any True Blood last night on TV. But of course it wasn't. It was a Wednesday night. So here we are on Thursday. I know we have some True Blood fans out there. So I wanted to just tell you, first of all, thank you so much for doing this webinar with us today. And I also want to let you know, me personally, I have no idea about behavioral data and lead scoring. So I'm really, me personally, very, very interested in this topic. I am excited always to learn more things. And I believe also that the dealers that are on the webinar today feel the same way. So we're looking forward to see what kind of magic you're going to throw at us. And before we get started, because I know it's a scorcher out there, I do want to thank everyone for coming and joining us today, because I know it's a holiday week. So we thank you all for being here today. So Jeff, tell us, what the heck are you going to teach us today?
Well, first off, as you know, I am a VP of Sales with Hook Logic. But as I go through most of the presentation, I'm going to put my dealer hat on, because it wasn't so long ago that I had my dealer hat on, and I still continue to consult with quite a few dealerships in my hometown in order to leverage best practices. So again, I'll be giving you sort of the dealer's perspective on how I've used lead scoring, how I've used behavior, and how we've used incentives to drive more traffic into the showrooms of my dealerships to sell more cars month after month.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's good stuff, huh?
think it is.
So, we've got the objectives. First is to determine the leads with the highest intent to purchase. Working at the dealership, we try to say, we want to work all of our leads the same. We don't cherry pick this. But at the end of the day, we're human. We're going to cherry pick certain leads. We typically work our homegrown leads a little bit harder than the leads that we get through, a third-party lead provider. But at the end of the day, it's all about driving these leads into the showroom. So how do we drive these leads into the showroom? Not just every lead, but the leads with the highest intent to purchase, okay? And then once we know that we've got the highest quality of leads rolling through our dealership, rolling through our BDC, rolling through our internet sales department, how do we acquire more of these leads that also have the highest intent? And keep in mind, too, whenever I speak about leads sometimes, I don't just mean the internet lead. Many times I mean also the floor traffic and the phone calls. To me, a lead is a lead is a lead. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. As long as I can get that customer that has the highest intent to purchase one of my cars walking through my showroom, that's always the home run for me. And as being director of marketing in previous positions, that's how I viewed my position. My job, was to get the consumers that did have the highest intent to purchase to walk through my dealership. So that's what I focused on. And what technologies out there can I use in order to achieve those results? So I have a goal here. Our goal today, or my goal, was to generate additional walk-in traffic that results in incremental sales using today's technology to determine which consumers have the highest intent to purchase. And before we sort of get started on so much of the how, or what I've been doing with my dealerships in order to achieve the results, I want to go over just 3 stats. And I always come back to these 3 stats because I think they're really important and they help support the how and the why I do what I do and what I've been doing with my dealerships. One, the number one most influential piece of the shopping process is the physical visit to the dealership, whether it's the test drive, to view a vehicle, to talk to a salesperson. It is the number one most influential piece. And I bring that up because, again, what do we need? We need more people with the highest intent to actually show up at the dealership. So that's an important stat for me. It's an obvious stat, but it's a very important one. Google also shows that consumers are, on average, using 18 different sources of information to help them determine their next vehicle purchase. That's a big number. Lots of different areas of influence. Those areas of influence, obviously there's some behavior there. What can we do within those different areas of influence to make sure we're there, but not so much that we're there at the right time? And then one that only sticks out to me, I love this stat. I've heard some people say it's 1.4. I read it was 1.8. It was through J.D. Power. On average, consumers are only visiting less than 2 dealers physically before making their purchase. Less than 2 dealerships does someone visit on average before making a purchase. I mean, that's a very small number. It's a very small number of dealerships that people visit. But for me, what I see there is a 50% closing ratio. If I'm not at a 50% closing ratio with the people that walk through my front door, then I'm doing something wrong. I should be at, I can basically take, basic math here and just back myself into a 50% closing ratio. What were you going to ask?
I was going to say, do you think that people are visiting 2 dealerships or less because they're getting sold at the first dealership, or because they do so much research that they practically know before they even walk into the dealership that they're going to be buying?
Well, I think we know, obviously, that, the consumers do the research, with 18 areas of influence, obviously. That's more than that's more than what they use in order to purchase a house. So people are doing their research. But we do find that once the customer does physically visit that dealership, things can change. They can end up purchasing a different car. But again, that's why if you go back to the one stat, the most influential piece was the showroom visit,
Right.
was the salesperson. Because even though with all that information they get into the dealership, who has the most impact is the physical show there at the dealership and the experience that they have. So it just makes sense. Yeah.
So the trick is getting to be one of those 1.8 dealerships, right? Because you have a pretty good chance of closing them then.
I always say that, when I'm doing some type of presentation, I'm just like, I don't know about you, but I want to be one of those 2 dealerships. I want to have the opportunity, and I've always said that. I just want the opportunity. Show up at my dealership, allow me the opportunity to show you a car, show you numbers, and if I know now, using different technology, that the people that I get to show up absolutely have the highest intent to purchase, I'm going to sell more cars. And that's exactly what my dealers have done. They've sold more cars.
So what we're going to be talking about today is you're going to tell us how to figure out which leads are ready to buy and how to get those people into our dealership, and then how to go out and find more leads that are ready to buy, right?
Exactly.
Because that sounds really simple.
Easy?
It sounds simple, but it doesn't sound easy, I got to tell you. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you got to say.
Well, I guess that's the whole thing. It's not rocket science, but, I can speak from the dealership level. We're always looking for something different. We're looking for, we'll try something out for a month or 2, and then we go, oh, that's not working out for us. We don't really have a reason why it's not working for us because we're not looking at the reports. We're just making some gut, instinct or whatever you want to call it in order to make that decision. And it's not always a logical decision. So, here's some great stuff, some great data, some great technology that maybe you couldn't get it to fit into your budget, Maybe you have the data, but what do you really do with it? When you have great data, you've got to execute on it. And I think that's where a lot of dealerships, a lot of businesses altogether sort of fail at. They forget about the execution part. It's great to look at reports. It's great to look at your analytics. But what the crap are you going to do with it at the end of the month? What are you going to do with it right now? So having something that you can execute upon in order to take that great data and turn it into something. That's where the win is. That's what needs to happen. And that's what typically doesn't happen, So I'm always, I won't speak the word hook logic very much, but, a lot of people that know me, again, been in the car business since I was just shy of 18 years old. I've worked in just about every department. It took a lot for me personally to ever come over to the vendor side. But I looked at what I was doing and how it married up with what they were doing. And as we put our heads together and came up with some great initiatives, some great products that at the end of the day just freaking work. It's not fairy dust. It's at the end of the day, it's about driving people into the dealership and selling more cars. That's what we want to do. That's what dealerships want to do. They don't want to fool around with all the little nuances. They want to sell cars. So, not to go off on a little spiel there, but I get excited about it. I get really passionate about what we're doing. I was very excited and passionate when I was at a large dealer group and I was introduced to lead scoring and what we were doing with that and how we could implement that. Even at that point though, the problem was we had to rely on people in order to execute on it. Well, that's not always a bad thing, but it's not always the best thing either. So can we find something out there? What can we do to execute on this great data and actively get these high-intent consumers back into the dealership, back into your dealership, more or less? So, again, I think I sort of spilled the beans when I said Polk lead scoring. I think a lot of people in our industry have heard about Polk lead scoring. They're not really quite sure what it does, how it does it. I've got some great relationships with Polk, obviously, and we've baked this into our product because We believe in it. We see it. You know, for years, I've seen thousands and thousands of leads go through Polk and them spit out this score. And whether you want to agree with the, you know, the scoring mechanism or not, at the end of the day, it works. It absolutely works. And again, thousands of leads being bounced up against registration data, I can sit here without a shadow of a doubt and say that this works. You know, if it didn't work, I wouldn't have baked it into the product. So, you know, so it's a huge important piece of our offerings with our lead to show piece, which obviously I'll get into. So again, we want to find out which leads are the best leads. How do we do that? Well, we use Polk. You know, Polk receives the leads, they standardize the information, they enhance, they blend. You know, then they go through a scoring algorithm. You know, and then they send it back to us. They send it back to the dealership. Well, the lead comes back. It's a 7. It's an 8. Well, what do you do with it? Again, like I said earlier, it's sort of where things start to fall down a little bit. Because what do you do with it? Well, obviously we've figured out a few different things to do with it and how to execute on the great data. You know, we work really hard at the dealership to acquire leads. You know, we've got our websites. We grow our own leads. We pay for trade-in pieces that obviously, you know, plug into the dealership website in order for you to gain the ability to grow additional first-party leads. Of course, many dealerships, including my dealership, still purchase third-party leads. You know, and this, what we do, sort of puts a completely different spin on third-party leads. I used to be one saying, you know what, maybe we should get out third-party leads. Well, you know what, maybe not, and I'll show you why. And of course, many of the dealerships out there have some type of OEM program that we get the leads from, and a lot of times those leads end up not being the best leads. Well, let's find out which ones aren't the best leads, and let's do something with them. So, again, this is where lead scoring comes into play. You know, if I could use lead scoring to help me find the best leads with the highest intent to purchase, then obviously my dealers can operate more efficiently and more effectively. Now, some people will go, well, you know, we sort of talk about what lead scoring is, but again, some people still question what is it, how does it work, and I just say, you know, I was going to read from the cue card. Polk looks at the specific information in the lead, combines it with their own database of information associated. You know, this combined information is used to determine the score. Each element within the model is weighed in its ability to predict the likelihood of the vehicle. Obviously, you can see that here in the slide. And it does. I mean, I basically read that from a cue card. But at the end of the day, Polk has their own algorithm. It works. I've been watching it for years now. I can guarantee that it works. And some of the numbers that we've seen is 70% of all vehicle purchases come from leads that were scored with a 7 or higher.
70% of purchases come from leads scored by a 7 or higher.
Yep, a Polk lead score of 7 or higher. Yep.
That's pretty great.
Exactly. Yeah. The highest scored leads, between a 9 and a 10, have over a 50% buy rate, and we're about 3 times as more likely to purchase overall. Again, great data, great information, but what do I do with it? I need these customers. Go ahead.
This is the buy rate, but 70% of leads were not scored a 7 or higher, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So the 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s, they're not as prevalent as, let's say, the 4s and 5s?
No, they are much more likely to buy.
Yeah. Oh, more likely to buy, but not as many of them, is what I meant.
I would have to have you rephrase that.
Okay, out of 100 leads, how many of them are 7 or higher?
Well, that right there can depend on the lead source. That's the whole purpose of this.
Gotcha.
Correct. But good question. Absolutely. So now that we're seeing the scores, now that we're scoring the leads, and we're able to find the ones with the highest intent to purchase, the question now becomes, this is the important one, the question now becomes not which leads are most likely to buy, but where will they buy from? I want these customers in my dealerships. I want these people to come to my dealership. I want the opportunity to sell these customers with the highest intent to purchase to walk through my showroom door. Now, of course, this is typically where people would come into the mix. You get the great lead. You're relying on your people. You're relying on your sales professionals, your BDC staff, But knowing the averages of people, is there something I can do to not only help my staff increase their show rate, but proactively drive the customer into the showroom floor, So what if I had a way to automatically incentivize customers that I know have the highest intent to purchase to walk into my showroom door? What would happen?
I don't know. Am I supposed to answer that? Was I supposed to answer that? I think it's a great idea. Sure, Jeff.
Well, I can tell you what's going to happen. What we've seen, is an average of a 35% of these buyers that 35% of these buyers are actually coming into the showroom floor. So 35% on average. Now, I do have some dealerships that, my dealerships that I still consult with, some months we're into a 50-60% lead to show rate. We're looking at which leads have the highest intent to purchase. We're incentivizing those customers based on different multiple variables, and then driving them into the dealership. On average, we're about 35% of people that engage with Hook Logic show up at the dealership, but I've got dealerships that are just blowing it out of the water. Obviously, the dealerships that blow it out of the water typically are really dialed into our lead to show piece. They're using the different lead variables in order to dial it in just a little bit tighter. We've got dealerships that obviously they also have great follow-up. Many dealerships fail at follow-up. They lack the follow-up. They'll follow up for a day or two. So we're, again, back to that cherry picking. Well, if you're going to follow up for a day or two, let's follow up on the right leads for a day or two, because we know statistically these customers are much more likely to purchase the vehicle. So one thing I always like to remember too, okay, as we're incentivizing these people, remember that stat that J.D. Power has. Consumers are visiting less than 2 dealerships physically before making a purchase. Again, I can sort of back myself into that 50% closing ratio. So some dealerships, well, we don't want to incentivize our people to come into the dealership. Well, it's not about incentivizing everybody. It's about incentivizing the right people. And if you're incentivizing at, let's say, a $25 incentive, and you're at 50% closing ratio, again, easy math, you're going to get your cost per sale. What can you do with that? How dialed in can you get with that? I've got some dealerships that look at where's the customer coming from? Where do they live? They're outside of our AOI. What's going to take to get that customer that just scored at an 8, that has a very high intent to purchase, but they're 45 minutes away. Maybe they're in the competition's back door. What do I get to get them into my dealership? What can I incentivize that customer to walk through my doors? So I've got some dealerships, different stair step programs. They double the offer. Drive that customer. Again, if I can get that customer into my dealership, I'm going to sell them a car. Talk about conquest. We always have issues with conquest. Everyone goes, well, I bought leads outside my area, but they never do well. You can give them a reason to do well. You can give them a fair opportunity. Maybe you did some follow-up, but let's grant it. We didn't do the follow-up that we really needed to do. And hey, you know what? Some people need a small kick in the butt, a nice little incentive to show up at the dealership. I'm going to do that all day long as the ROI and the cost per sale makes sense.
Hey, I'm the first one to say, An incentive never, ever hurts. Would I pick one dealership over another because I simply get a $25 gift card to Target? Oh, heck yeah. I love me some Target, but I absolutely think incentivizing works. And you know what? In this economy, you have to use every trick up your sleeve to get people to come into your dealership and sell them a car, I think.
I didn't ask you to ask that question, did I?
No, no, but I mean, I love the idea of incentivizing. I mean, it's not just auto dealers that are doing it. I think auto dealers are probably one of the last people to do it. I mean, if you go to Kohl's, they give you cash, they give you this funny money. So you make a purchase, and for every $50 you spend, you get $25 for a future purchase. Guess what? During those weeks, they have their highest number of sales, so they incentivize revisiting, So I just think auto dealers, they have this bad taste in their mouth when it comes to incentivizing visits, but they shouldn't.
Yep.
It's a great opportunity to give people one more extra reason to come into your dealership. And that might be that one little reason that gets them into your dealership, and you'll be one of those, 1.8 dealerships that they visit. I think it's a great idea.
I think you need a job.
I think I have a job, but thanks.
I need a salesperson. No, I'm glad you said that. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's funny because I'll be at a restaurant, and the waitress will come up, and I'll be in the middle of conversation with some industry friends, and I'll stop them, and that's the question I'll ask them. Like, what would it take? Let's just say hypothetically you were in the market for a car, and dealership A did this, dealership B did this, but dealership B lived this far away. What would it take in order to incentivize you to show up at that dealership? And would you even at all? And the answer is always, oh yeah, definitely. And then to give the customer a choice of what incentive. I'm mostly talking about our lead show piece, but we do have another piece where the consumer actually gets to choose what incentive they want. That little change alone has had a profound effect on how well our product works within that feature setup. So you're right. It's for me, for a dealership, would $25 gift card incentivize be enough incentive to incent me to come into a dealership? I'll be honest, probably not. But I've been in this business for since I was 18. It's going to be 20 years. So I'm not really. It's not fair for me to really give an answer to that. I've been in the business, I've been in the marketing, I know what's going on. But my father, he's in the market for a truck, and he's on a website where he fills out a lead, and the dealership incentivizes him, with a $20 or $50 Lowe's card. I guarantee he's going to show up at that dealership. And I guarantee you, knowing my dad, he's going to purchase. As long as he had what? Back to that stat. What's the most influential piece of the purchase? The visit to the dealership. You give the customer a great experience. You present them the right vehicles. You've increased your opportunities of selling the car. But up to that point, it's about driving that customer into your dealership. So it's good stuff. It really is.
Yeah, I right now I'm in the middle of trying to shop for chairs. So I went to 4 different websites, found some chairs that I was interested in, sent in leads to all of them. Only one of them followed up with me with an email thanking me for coming to their website. They sent me free samples of the upholstery and a 5% coupon. Now that's some follow-up. And who do you think I'm going to be buying my chairs from?
And, everyone says, about car dealerships not having to follow up. We're not the only industry.
No, definitely
online,
not.
I've shopped. I've been to small retail sites, and you contact somebody, and 4 days later, you finally hear back from. We're not the only industry that's sort of, that isn't always up to par with their follow-up. We're probably actually better than most companies now, most verticals, to be honest with you. So no, it's a great point. It really is, and again, it ties into a lot of the different things that I do with my dealerships on a consulting level. So it's good stuff. But again, sort of back to this. You said earlier, it seems easy. Well, it is.
No. I said it was simple. I didn't say it was easy.
Okay.
It seems simple.
No, Yeah, you're right. I'm glad you said it. So it is simple. It might not be easy. We provided, our services have made it easy for dealerships, for my dealerships, to score our leads, to take that lead, to find the highest intent to purchase, and then to automatically incentivize that customer to physically come in at the dealership. So it's sort of like a wash, rinse, repeat. You said, or with our goals, now that we know which lead provider is giving us the best leads, whether it's our own website, whether maybe it's a plug-in piece, whether we're buying third-party leads from a different service or coming from the OEM, or maybe you're getting into some second-chance finance leads. Now we've got the technology that's much more affordable for the dealership. And then on top of that, we'll take that data and then incentivize the right customer at the right time to show up at the dealership. So again, sort of that wash, rinse, and then repeat. The repeat is, okay, now we know we can get rid of this lead provider and we're not going to be affected. And let's take that budget and let's put it somewhere else. And all of a sudden, oh, well, we're getting higher. We're getting more leads, we're getting better leads, not so much more leads. To me, it's all about the quality over the quantity, But then, let's go into, I should say, what about all the leads that maybe we've scored and maybe they were a little low at the time, or better yet, maybe the leads scored high, but we weren't able to drive them into the door. We weren't able, maybe it just wasn't their time, People go in and out of the markets for different reasons, especially with your high-end dealerships. Your BMW, Mercedes, these are not need buyers, they're want buyers. These people are in and out of the market at any given day. Something comes up. Even your average car buyer is also the same. Things happen on a day-to-day basis. People go in and out of the market. Someone could score at that 7, and they do have a high intent to purchase, but maybe something happens and they drop out of the market. I want to know when these people come back in the market. I want to know what's their behavior online. I hope my staff is doing the right job. I hope they're doing the follow-up. I hope they're, we got the customer, maybe they opted in for our email newsletter so we can at least get them back and, at least get the dealership, get some inventory, whatever I need to get back in front of that customer. But what if I had a way to know when the customer that has, for some reason or another, had fallen out of the market, I wasn't able to get them into the dealership, but now they're back into the market. And I know this because I have a way of tracking the customer's online browsing habits. And then this, in return, allows me to helps me to determine, obviously, their behavior, but their behavior equaling showing me that now they're potentially back in the market for a car. Well, that lead was a month old, and I like to think that my salespeople were following up with it, but what if they weren't? But that customer's back into the market. And I know this through using Dataium and their set of tools and tracking that customer, so when the lead comes to us, we can go ahead and incentivize a customer based on the score, but maybe the dealership wasn't able to get them in the door, maybe it wasn't enough, maybe it was just bad timing. And now that we see the customers back in the market, maybe they're on Cars.com or Road and Track or one of the different affiliate websites through, or even the competitors, or they're back on your own dealership website, but they're not converting. Wouldn't you want to know that information? I mean, no one's doing anything like that. To have that kind of information, great, you can know it, but what do you do with it? Well, what if you could incentivize that customer again to show up at your dealership to allow you the opportunity? We already know they scored high. They were in the market, out of the market, now they're back in the market. Dealership doesn't have to lift a finger. All of a sudden, the customer gets an email asking them to revisit the dealership, or for the first time, come into the dealership, and here's an incentive to do so. So that's technology. That's using the technology that's out there, some of the best technology, again, to find those customers that do have the highest intent to purchase. Let's drive them into the dealership, and let's sell more cars. You know, again, not rocket science, simple, maybe not easy, as you said, but the ability to do it is there. And the dealerships that we've got doing it, my own dealerships, obviously sort of the beta testers many years ago, whenever I was with a larger group, rolled this out to 54 dealerships. You know, now we've got hundreds of dealerships on the program, and being able to see that data and seeing that on average 35%, you know, give or take a percentage from month to month, these people that engage with the incentive physically come into that dealership.
Well, we're already starting to get some questions in just about that, so let's
yeah.
keep rolling so we can get to those questions soon.
Yeah, well, so I got to talking, and I think I forgot my slides.
Yeah, there's supposed to be some slides in there.
So, you know, again, I get real passionate about it, so I'll go through the slides here real quick. But you know, improve the close rate of all inbound leads is the lead to show piece. That's what we do with the dealerships. You know, scoring that information, highly targeted, and then driving them into the showroom. And of course, you know, the whole goal is to generate additional walk-in traffic that obviously results in sales and a great ROI. And then again, with Dataium, finding out what that customer is doing, what are they doing online, they were out of the market, now they're back in the market. Hey, let's do something. Let's take some action with those customers. Let's incentivize them once again to come into the dealership, you know. We've got some numbers. If anyone would ever obviously want to contact me afterwards, I can share some different case studies, what I've done, some best practices at my dealership. You know, some people ask, how do you do this with, you know, other avenues within the dealership or other departments. Just a quick case study. This is a case study that is that was performed with Mile 1 with our lead to show piece. You know, we did run an A/B test to see the impact of targeted offers on vehicle sales. 50% of inbound leads with a Polk score of an 8 through 10 received a $25 gift card. Compared to results of both groups, just to see the impacts, it was through 12 dealerships over a 2-month period. And what we were able to track was a 23% open and click rate, twice as high as our typical email open rate at the time. And then 29% of those who clicked with the email redeemed the incentive. Obviously, we're a lot higher than this now because we've tweaked this out. Now we're in the mid-30s, and you know, as we continue to tweak this out, our goal is to be in the obviously in the 40 to maybe even hit 50%. So again, it's not rocket science, but this is some awesome technology, and at the end of the day, no one's applying this data and executing on it and driving those people into the showroom the way I've been able to do it with my dealerships.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And now comes the tough time, because I got to tell you, you got some tough questions ahead of you.
Uh-oh. All right, I'm ready.
I'm not going to lie to you. They're not being easy on you today. And certainly, audience, if you have some more questions, please send them on in. But we're going to jump right in onto these questions right here. Are you ready, Jeff?
Sure.
Because I love what you were saying, and I'm totally down with incentivizing. I am, because I know it works on me. So, and by the way, just so you know, I'm a sucker for a free car wash and or a free tank of gas. Just putting that out there. Okay, so Trisha wrote in, and she says, when I was a digital dealer, I saw a completely different product that was a plug-in for my site. Is that something new? I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah, I do, actually. She's talking about, so yeah, with HookLogic, we do have a couple of different products.
Okay.
Most people know us for our web to show, and it is a dealership website plugin that looks at some of the behavior that the consumer's making on the website, and it's an additional lead driver, and we use that piece, A, for additional leads, but obviously those leads have a great intent to show up at the dealership because, again, we've used that incentive mechanism in order to drive that customer into the dealership. So she's talking about the web to show feature. Well, within this discussion, you know, I really wanted to talk about our lead to show because it's a piece that not everybody knows about. It's a piece that I hold dear to my heart, and it's the piece that I've used at the dealership level with my dealerships on a day-to-day basis to really achieve the numbers that we have been able to achieve. It's, not to go on a quick tangent, but it was it was September of last year. 'Cause again, I've been doing this for a while. My Nissan, a few people have probably heard the story. My Nissan GM owner gets with me and he goes, Jeff, we got X amount of time to sell X amount of Altimas, and I want to win. It means a lot of money for the dealership. Well, we had already done, we had already sort of exhausted our whole database with direct mail pieces. So we were looking for something a little bit different. I was like, look, what's it worth for you to have a customer that has the highest intent to purchase, that's interested in Nissan Altima, to walk through your showroom door? What would you be willing to spend? Knowing what your cost per sale, knowing what your average closing percentage is, what would you be willing to spend? He goes, $150.
Whoa,
like,
that's a lot.
Let's take it down to 100. Well, it is, but again, if you're a 50% closing ratio, a 70% closing ratio, and the average cost per sale is upwards of $400, well, I can incentivize $200 and still, if I close out that 50% clip, be a $400 cost per sale. Follow me?
Right.
So I said, let's reduce it. Let's take it down to $100, and we incentivize all customers outside of our AOI that had a high lead score of 7, 8, 9, 10, and we incentivized them $100 to come into the dealership. I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. If they don't show up, I don't pay. If they show up, I know that I've used some of the best technology to determine that customer. You're going to be so sick and tired of hearing me say high intent. Has the highest intent to purchase, to walk through my showroom door and to sell them a car. 3 months, stair-step program, we crushed it. We crushed it. We won for the whole region. The dealership made a lot of money. So sorry to go off on the tangent, answer that question in sort of a long way, but it's good stuff. It's great information.
Well, thank you very much for that, Jeff. And Tricia, if you have a follow-up question, please write on in. Jeff, why don't you put on the slide with your mugshot on? Don't you want people to see what you look like?
No?
I
thought the question came from you.
No. Okay, next question comes from Al. And Al says, well, what are some of the best incentives that you have ever used? So you just told us that one, which seemed to work really well, was like I said, I love a free tank of gas and a car wash. So tell me what other incentives you think really, really just hit it home.
That's a good question. Typically it depends on where the dealership's located. We've got relationships with hundreds of vendors out there, or retail departments that allow us to pick and choose. But what we found is most people engage with the MasterCard Cash Card. Obviously, we can use that anywhere. Target's a big push. Starbucks, iTunes. But the thing is just giving the customer the opportunity to choose which one, because now they've sort of made that conscious decision. They've made a decision on which one is going to be the right one in order to have them drive into the dealership. So really not one in particular, but we look at where the customer or where the dealership's located and then make some decisions based on that.
Okay. Al, I hope that answers your question. Next question is a toughie. Jeff, I'm not going to lie to you. Matt has it out for you. Matt wrote in, and he says, my GSM doesn't believe in lead scoring or incentives for that matter. Any ideas on how I can make him see the light?
Oh my God, that is a tough question.
I didn't say they were going to be easy.
Have me visit the dealership, and we'll tie him up and put him in the closet, and like, I don't know, but the reality is that's a typical response we get. We don't believe in incentivizing. We don't believe in lead scoring. Well, why? Why don't you? I can show you all the reasons to believe in it, but the only reason you're showing me not to believe in it is because you just don't believe in it. So to me, it just doesn't make any sense. And when someone says that, sometimes I stumble. I'm like, well, where do I go from here? But hey, I've got lots of data to show you that it works. Which data do you have to show me that it doesn't work? I guess that would be my answer. That's the answer that I typically use. Again, I mean, the numbers don't lie. How do you go against the numbers? You know?
I don't know, Matt. Jeff, but Matt, if I know that there are dealerships out there. There are few. I know there's not that many, but there's still a few dealerships out there who swear that this whole website online thing is just a fad. It's going to pass, and I got to go and put my full page ad in the newspaper. I mean, I know there's dealerships out there who really still believe that. So
I guess
it wouldn't surprise me that there's dealerships out there where people
no,
don't.
there definitely is. But the scary thing is how long will these dealerships be around? I mean, you can't have such a closed mind. You got to be open-minded. I mean, that's something that I take pride. I look at anytime someone wants to say, hey, take a look at my product, I look at it with open eyes. You know, I remove, sometimes we're really quick to be judgmental. I try not to be. You never know. I've ran across some really awesome products that's helped my dealership sell more cars by just having an open mind and be willing to give something a shot. You got to be willing to give something a shot. And then once you're willing to give it a shot, be ready to give it 100%. Don't give it 50% and go, oh, well, that didn't work for us. Because we dealerships, we do that crap all the time. Well, it didn't work for us. Like, yeah, but you did 2 of the 10 best practices. I mean, I've been guilty of that. I can talk that way because I've been guilty. I've done it myself, But throughout the years, I'm like, I'm doing myself a disservice by having that attitude.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jeff. I did like what you said earlier, and Matt, maybe this might help. But earlier you had said we had nothing to lose. We tried the incentive. We don't pay if they don't come in. So what did we have to lose? Nothing. We only had to gain. So that might be your argument. It might be like, look, I really want to try this incentives thing. Let's just give it a shot, We don't have anything to lose.
We do have a small technology fee, not to get into all that. So there's always going to be some costs associated. But it's minimal. It really, really is. And it's minimal just to see if it is working. And then once you see it is working, there's other features that you can jump on to increase the effectiveness. So you can take some baby steps and then start running.
Got it. Okay, well, Matt, I really hope that helped you out.
Yeah,
Next question. Yeah, that was a good one. I told you it was tough, though, right? Next question comes from Chris. And Chris writes in, what is a good lead-to-show rate for website leads?
A good lead-to-show rate well, I want to see a lead-to-show of about 30%. Knowing that I push my dealerships to be at a 15% closing ratio, depending on the mix. In our industry, we always go, what's the average closing ratio? Well, if I'm acquiring the right leads with the highest intent to purchase and the right amount, I could get myself up to a 50 to 60% lead to show, and then sell 70% of those leads. We always go, what's the averages? But what is the average? It confuses me because if you're doing everything right, let's say I was just buying, we know that typically your highest closing leads come from the dealership website.
Right.
Typically. That's always been the word on the streets. I've been able to prove that wrong sometimes using lead scoring and incentivizing. But on average, let's just take that. Well, what if you bought no other leads, you acquired no other leads, you did nothing, but just take the leads from your dealership website? You should get a 30% closing ratio, at least in the mid to high 20s. And then don't buy anything. And then all of a sudden, your lead to show rate is going to be a higher percentage, and your closing rate is going to be a higher percentage than the average. So I'm not really, that's only my answer to that. Your job is to make sure you get to the highest percentage lead to show and show to close as possible. And you do that through your marketing mix. You do that through your lead mix. And you do that by using technology to get the best leads, to get the best people showing up at the dealership. So really, It's open.
Well, thank you for that. And Chris, I hope that answered your question. Certainly if you have a follow-up question, you let us know. Okay, next question. We do have a few more questions, so we're going to keep you just a little bit longer, Jeff. Hold on. Okay, next question comes to us from Mark. Is there anything that can be done on the service department side? That's a great question. I know that, we recently did a webinar that had to do with fixed ops, and it was very well attended. So I know there's people out there who want to know any way possible that they can increase the profit, increase the bookings for their service departments. So what have you got? What can you help us with?
It's a great question, and it's one that I stewed over for quite a while. And absolutely, there is a way. And it's your decline opcodes. When someone does your decline service, when someone declines a service, there's some other services out there that will down to the DMS, look at all the repair orders for that day, and find which services consumers declined. Some of those services, a few days later, a week later, whatever you set up, will send that customer an email trying to get that customer back into the dealership to get that particular service done. A lot of times those campaigns don't do so well, especially unless you're trying to find a lost soul campaign or someone that hasn't been into the dealership for service over a particular period of time, such as a year. But what if you could incentivize those people as well? Again, these are your customers. They haven't been into the dealership for a while, or they declined a particular service. Well, rather than throwing a X% off incentive coupon, what if we only have to give away $25? Again, that's only going to be on a high customer pay ticket, but that $25 to go ahead and schedule that service that you declined 3 weeks ago online using our online service scheduling piece, and then incentivizing that customer to do so and come into the dealership for that service department. We don't have a lot of dealerships doing this. My one Nissan dealership is doing this. We just implemented it, and we're starting to see some results already.
When you say just implemented it, how long ago?
A month and a half.
Excellent. Excellent. That's great. Okay,
Yeah.
Next question comes to us from Adam. Adam says, I just want to make sure I understand correctly that we can see which third-party lead providers by provider are producing clicks. Is that what you said, Jeff?
Clicks?
That's what it says. I believe he means leads.
I think so. So repeat the question again.
Just want to make sure I understand correctly that we can see which third-party lead providers by provider are producing clicks, which I believe he means leads.
So yes and no. If you're asking the question, is that possible? Absolutely. If you're asking, is that something that I provide through Hook Logic? Yes and no. And so I've got the ability to look at their score and then incentivize, and that we've incentivized those people. But we don't pass the actual score, back. And again, it's passive versus active. It's, okay, you've got the score, but what are you going to do with it? Most dealerships don't know it, and maybe he does, but most dealerships don't know what to do with it. Let us take the score, and we'll execute upon it for you.
I know, but
yeah, you can get that score passed back to you. The possibility is there, if that's what he's asking.
I mean, you can see his point, though. I mean, if the dealership is spending, let's say, round numbers, $1,000 with Auto Trader to get X amount of leads with an average median score of, whatever, and then he spends $1,000 with Cars.com, same thing. He's going to want to know where his money is best spent,
Correct. Yep, it's doable.
Well, there you have it. Adam, I hope that helped you out. And guess what, Jeff? I'm gonna spring you out of here now. We're at the top of the hour, and you did great. Thank you so much. That was a really great presentation. And any questions that weren't answered during the time allotted will certainly be answered by email later today. Right, Jeff?
Yep.
That's right. So thank you so much. I want to remind the audience also that a link to download a copy of today's webinar recording will be emailed to you later today for your reference. Please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. And today's webinar is also going to be posted online within 24 hours. So just go to dealeron.com/webinars, and guess what? You can view our upcoming webinar schedule too. Speaking of that, invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar. Right, Jeff?
Yeah.
That's right.
Good. I'll be on that one.
Yeah, I know. We both know Eli. So our expert from Google shares best mobile strategies with none other than Eli Romberg. He's the strategic partner manager on the automotive channel sales team at a little company. You might have heard about it. It's called Google. That's right. So if you've had the pleasure of catching Eli on his previous webinar, he spoke with us a few weeks back, then you know, hands down, this guy gives great webinar. And if you didn't hear about it, well, then you should know that he was one of our highest rated webinar speakers ever. So he's going to join us and share with us the very best mobile strategies. And that's something every dealership needs to know. And it is hot right now. Mobile is so hot. It's en fuego, as we like to say over here in the jurors. So do yourself a favor and don't miss this presentation by us, your friends at Dealeron. And don't forget, Dealeron's weekly webinars are held every Thursday, 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Time. And we have some really great webinar subjects planned for this year. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, please contact me directly. My name is Eliana. I love hearing from you. Track me down. I am absolutely everywhere online, or you can email me at eliana@dealeron.com. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and we hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Have yourselves a good one. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.